I think we're live. This is Mike Wynn back with our Legacy Live here at Fort Benning, Georgia, at the Darton Archery Pro-Am. We've got Kirk Bonds here, Sarah Hallgren, and our special guest, Antuan Yancy from Arrows Up. Yeah. Thank you, sir, for joining us. He's here at the house this time, so I don't know that he'll ever ride with us or sleep in our house again, but we're glad he's here this time. So it's been fun and been an adventure. But we want to talk a little bit this week since the main topic of Benning is rain. That's kind of where we've been. It rained all day today. We shot this morning at 9 and it started raining hard probably about 9:30 and did not stop until about 3 or 4 this afternoon as far as hard rain. So we got absolutely soaked. So we want to talk about, what do you do when you want to shoot in the rain? How do you prepare? What did you learn today? Because even I learned a few things today. So does anybody want to start us off with what they learned today or what they prepare for when it comes to rain?
Well, I know, Mike, you and I had to shoot today at 9 o'clock, and I mean, everybody before is looking at the weather forecast and deciding, like, well, how much do I need to prepare for this weather, and how much is it going to rain? So, I mean, taking an umbrella is kind of, you know, the first go-to in your head, but do you bring a rain jacket, or is that going to interfere with your shot? You know, I have a rainy day bag, and it's a weatherproof bag, and I have things like compressed air, I have a towel in there, and then I have a little tool bag that has stuff like lens wipes and like kind of those little sharp pointed Q-tips, so that if you get water in your peep, you can like really pinpoint the water out of there. Those are some of the things that I bring in my rainy day bag that I wouldn't bring on a normal day.
Yeah.
And like today, it never stopped raining. It was just a steady downpour. So we were soaked like through and through. Yeah. So I mean, trying to keep something dry, and that, like when you get up and you're ready to shoot and your hands are covered in water and your clothes are water, there's nothing to wipe off on. So having a towel in my pocket that
I gave up on towels.
Well, I was able to keep one dry enough to wipe my hands off to get on my release. But you know, just like, what do you bring to prepare for days like these is something. But I think this was definitely one of the worst in recent years.
I think it's the only time we've shot the entire round in a downpour. We've had sprinkles, hard rain, then quit, then, you know, on and off, but just the relentless nonstop. It got to the point where we were so wet we just stopped using our umbrella because it was pointless holding it up because you're already as wet as you're going to get. So I've got a scope cover. That was probably the most important thing, to keep the scope. If you're shooting a lens, a lot of guys on the range took their lenses out. It got so wet they couldn't see. I recommend practicing that first. Yeah. I have not practiced that, so I didn't do it. I just fought the water droplets and everything on the lens, but
the air does a good job of blowing the water off.
Yeah, I saw today, I have canned air, compressed air, and it fogged my lens up bad.
Yes.
Cleaned it, but fogged it, so then I had to take it out and wipe it. It was good. I saw a couple of guys using like an old school ketchup bottle and just squeezing the puff of air.
Empty.
So empty, yes. You know, but at least it blew just enough air to disperse the water and not fog it up. So I thought that was creative. It may be something I look at for sure going in next time.
Yeah, the compressed air will blow.
It fogs it. Yeah.
You know, if the weather's not, you know, too cool, and you spray the compressed air, so long as it's not upside down and you freeze your lens, then it's pretty good at dispersing the water droplets. But with the way the temperature was today too, it fogged it up so bad. I know I made a bad shot, struggling with that, and ended up taking my lens out and wiping off and putting back in.
It was tough.
But
tell us how the compressed air tastes.
Oh yeah, it tastes bad. So don't let any terrible person, this one right here, spray it in your face. Tastes bad.
So one of the other things to consider if you've never shot in the rain, depending on how hard it's raining, you have to compensate with your arrow flight.
Yeah.
Because as you can imagine, as arrows are going, the rain's coming down, and it's going to slow it down as it's getting not alone. As your strings are wet, they're going to slow down just ever a little bit. It's not much. Strings not as much as the arrow flight.
Right. The rain dropped your arrow.
But yeah,
right into the
there was a point, it was raining hard enough today that on about a 45-yard target, we had to add about a yard and a half.
Yeah.
Or you would just miss out the bottom. So it's one of those things that's really hard to practice for, and you really, it's raining, let's shoot,
Yeah, like who wants
not
to
really,
practice
but
in the rain? Nobody.
but it's something you kind of have to gauge, and as the rain gets harder and harder, you just got to really pay attention to what your drop is. If you made a good shot, how did it hit low? If it didn't hit low, keep running, and as soon as it starts, be prepared.
Yeah.
It's one of those I started. Before I knew where it was going, I was aiming at uppers,
Right.
just in case I started dropping low. That was okay. And as soon as I started dropping low, I started adding.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of play different games when it comes to the rain. It changes a lot of things. I know me personally, when it comes to raining, you typically won't see me aim at a lower, just because I'm too much of a scaredy cat to have my arrow drop.
A lot of people today were choosing the upper path, taking the high road just in case. I was watching how my arrow was impacting, and I did choose to shoot at several lowers in the rain. Just having faith in how my previous arrows had impacted in the rain and my sight tape, and they proved successful for me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wasn't aiming at the bottom of the lower.
Yeah, this is true.
Like give it a little bit of gap, whatever there.
So as a side note to that, we've got two guys here that actually have option rounds. Antuan and Kirk both had option rounds. Sarah and I, they don't give us option rounds. We have to shoot Friday. We have to shoot Saturday. No other choice. These guys had option rounds, so they actually got to decide not to shoot today, which was probably the smartest decision all weekend. There were actually a whole bunch of people walking out on the range when we left that were getting ready to go into this shoot. I know for me, about target 12, 13, I was done.
Yeah.
I was so wet, I was done, I was ready to go home. So I can't imagine walking out into that and starting. So more power to them. They're brave souls to walk into that knowing what they're getting into. At least when we started, it wasn't a complete downpour yet. So one of those things. But so what else did we learn today? Antoine, what did you learn today? Besides, it's really nice to sleep in the truck with the rain falling.
Stay in the truck.
Yeah. My first experience actually with rain was out hill country. It was a week before we came out here, and I had no rain gear. Honestly, I shoot clear targets so they don't fog up, and the water just beads off of them and it rolls off.
Yeah, it's a plastic lens. It works really good though. It works very good.
So it works. So it's pretty cool. Flex seemed to do pretty well. The vein do pretty well in the rain. I don't get too much drop.
Yeah.
Too much drop.
Have you shot in the downpour though?
It was out in hill country. It was raining harder than it was out there than it was out here today.
Okay.
When we were shooting.
Yeah.
I shot one arrow though. It was probably, I think it was 32 yards.
Yeah, you won't see much.
So it wasn't bad. So I was like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. But otherwise, the only thing I'm really concerned with I still got the winter short strings on there.
You'll be alright.
And I don't really shoot factory strings. I like bloodline fibers. Me personally, I would get away from the 432 axis. But that's just personal preference. I think they just a bit more stable for me, and I would like the back wall how they feel.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit concerned with that because I don't have any wax with me.
I think you'll be okay with drop or anything. You're shooting a 40-yard class?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
So it should be fine.
Out to in the 20s and 30s, yeah, you won't see much drop with the rain. If you're shooting a quick bow, that's over. What was you about 280? No. 272. Okay, I think you'll be alright. Yeah, you're shooting 27s.
Yep.
I am too. Very slow.
So I had no rain gear. Came out here. Well, that taught me I needed some rubber boots. So
You got your rubber boots. I saw you get your elite umbrella.
got some Tractor Supply rubber boots. They work. I'm glad I did.
You got your elevation bow case.
Yeah, I got an elevation thing. He was like, "You should get one." I was like, I thought I was like, "No, I'm gonna get it." But then I said, I grabbed one. Then I got an umbrella. I was talking to my wife. As long as we know each other, we going on 20 plus. She's never seen me with an umbrella. I said, I was like, I've never bought one. I was like, I can't even tell you how I see you buy one. I just went to Elite. I was like, yo, y'all got umbrellas? They said, yeah. I said,
There you go.
And they're nice because they're more compact than a lot of the umbrellas that are out there, you know, as
So,
options of
Yeah,
rain gear money
mine's
well
used
spent
umbrellas.
for sure. I'm not gonna lie, I thought they were nuts. Just
You don't use it often, but when you do,
If you don't have a bow umbrella, trash bag works.
yeah.
Well, you know, that's an interesting point, Kurt, because there's a lot of different options for how to protect your bow in the rain, and there's the bow umbrella, the scope umbrella, the elevation has the cover that's elastic and goes over the string, and it really depends. Yeah, hefty, you know, trash bag.
I'm ahead.
There's a lot of people out actually. There's a lot of people actually out on the range using gallon Ziploc baggies and just putting them over their side.
Yeah.
You know, it works. Like our scorecard today stayed so dry. We were shooting with Rendon Brooks, and she's like, "Y'all, I got the gallon Ziploc bags. Our cards are going in them."
I saw
They
Braden
were dry.
Valentine doing that. Our
Yeah.
cards, we had to replace them twice throughout the
Yeah,
round.
no,
because they were
ours
falling apart.
were really good, except for
That's
like we
awesome.
had like one or two because there's
Yeah.
two people holding cards. But yeah, those worked really well. But you have to think about, you know, how are you setting your bow? Are you tripoding your bow like so it's kind of horizontal, or are you having your bow sitting up on legs?
Some
and
of them
then-
don't work.
Yeah, you have to decide if that bow cover is going to fit with how you put your bow down, because I tripod my bow so it's horizontal and my front stabilizers are sticking up, so I can't put most of the bow umbrella things on there, so I just stick my umbrella on top of the bow to try and keep my strings and stuff dry.
Do you put your cam in the dirt? I seen a couple people.
No,
Put
I
it
don't.
on that
Actually,
YouTube.
Actually,
Yeah,
that's a
on
good
the chair.
question. Usually what I do is I have a string stop that I attach to the top part of my riser to make a third leg, I guess you say, tripod the bow. Right now I'm shooting the Dart Exodus, and I have not quite figured out a way to tripod that yet. So I have my chair with me, and I set my cam on my chair, like kind of the bag part of the chair, not the top. And then I just stick the umbrella
I've
on
seen a
it.
couple
So it
people do
stays
that.
out of the dirt. I am not a fan
I wouldn't
of
put it in the
cam
dirt.
Yeah, I seen a couple people doing that. And I was like,
You get the grit inside the cam, and it's not going to really affect it a lot, but it's going to wear the serving down if that grit dries
You
in
know,
there.
I
and shoot
would
it
like
over
to
again.
avoid any and all, you know,
Anything.
thoughts in my head
Right.
about having abrasiveness
Yeah.
in that.
Get the
yeah,
mud and the
yeah.
bearings and the spacers.
Right.
Yeah,
So I put my cam onto the lower part of my bag.
yeah, there you go. I know by target 13, 14, we stopped using them. It didn't matter because the bows were already soaked. Everything on the bow was soaked. The bow covers were soaked, and it was just a more hassle to put it on there. So most everybody stopped using them because it was just like, what's the point?
Yeah, I think one thing to talk
It was
about
so wet.
is definitely like, it takes longer to shoot your round in the rain.
Yeah, our
Just
round
because
went
of-
an hour and a half over.
It was quite long, like we
Yeah.
started at 9 a.m. and we were done at round 1.
It was a little after one. It was closer to 1:30 because they had to delay the guys behind us.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
well, it was definitely, I wasn't watching the clock too quick, but it was definitely longer than usual, because if you think about, everybody's got their umbrellas and they're trying to change their yardage, you know, under their umbrella, or, you know, trying to keep things dry, like the scorecard's dry, and it just takes longer, and if you're shooting, and before we kinda gave up, with trying to stay dry, we were trying to have somebody up at the stake and holding the umbrella and getting under there, and people were taking their little bow covers off. But
We shot like men, no umbrellas.
no, I
Step
know
up to
there
the
were-
stake
there
and
were
just
men
shot
that-
with nothing.
That didn't like that.
Oh no, most of the groups had umbrellas,
Yeah.
but we were
They're all worried about getting their
we just didn't care.
Yeah.
Everything was wet already, and we were just like whatever. So we just stepped up. There was no umbrella and shot. We just took the rain. I was so wet, it didn't matter.
Yeah, we with the constant downpour, all the clothing, like I had on thermals, my jersey, and then a vest as well, and I was soaked through to the bone. And then, you know, after a while, you get really chilled. So we had like maybe 7 or 8 targets left to go, and I know everybody in my group, we had 5 of us, we were all shivering. You know, thankfully you can kind of, when you get up the stake, like have a few seconds and hold that shiver back, but other than that, we were just,
That good is it wasn't too cold now. It wasn't too cold outside.
Yeah, thankfully.
It was 60s,
But
right on the edge.
But when it's 60 and you got a little wind blowing,
The
and,
wet
and
60 is different than the dry 60.
Soaked to the bone, yeah. It was
So
for me in the past, I guess like 4 years that I've been shooting, definitely one of the weather-wise most difficult shoots that I've had for a single day.
because I know Foley a few years ago we had a downpour where
We had the 2 hurricanes coming through in Foley.
I remember we were shooting at one stake and we were adding 3-4 yards to our sight because it was raining so hard. I mean, it was a downpour.
And it started early for us. I was at target 2 or 3 for the day, and it
only lasted like 30 minutes.
It didn't last long. We kind of paused for a little bit and then kept shooting. But in that like brief period, my rangefinder got waterlogged and stopped working, and so did my binoculars. So it was like shooting blind. And I was asking the girls around me, like, what yardage do you get? And everyone had a different rangefinder than me, so it was a complete blaze of blind shoots.
That hurts.
I am concerned about grip though. I'll probably gonna need some
That's a good point.
skateboard tape.
Yeah, that was.
Because that's concerning. I was dealing with that at Hill Country.
That's a good point.
I don't want to pull my bow back and it come punch me back in the face.
I had today. What he's talking about is I had like a tennis racket tape wrap around my bow for grip. It adds a little comfort. It's a little bit tacky, so your bow doesn't slide in your hand. But today, when it got absolutely soaked, it soaked up all the water, and then it became just slick as snot. And there was a couple times you have to. If my arrow doesn't hit the rest on the way back, I have to pick it up. And when I do, I have to rotate my hand. And there's twice where just the tip of my thumb was the only thing holding my bow back. And it was starting to slip, and it could have easily have just come right back at me. So I took that off tonight and put on basically skateboard tape, what you see on the top of the skateboard, to add a lot more traction, a lot more grip. So regardless whether it's wet tomorrow, I'll have grip. So used it many times. It works great. Whenever it's new, it's a little abrasive on the hand, but as far as grip goes, I don't know that you can beat it.
Yeah, that definitely will hold up in the weather. I know I use just athletic tape on both my release and the grips for my bow, and that lasts me a long time. And today I didn't have too much trouble. I tried to keep things as dry as I could, but it's like the athletic tape absorbs water as well as the downpour, so it kind of has this squishy feel to it.
Yeah.
And anything even minute like that, it changes your routine and like the feel that you have shooting the bow. So, but I would definitely recommend having some kind of grip tape on your release if you're going to be shooting in the rain, because that wet metal is slick.
I was gripping it tight.
You definitely don't want to send that sucker down there in a national tournament, because I know we all put a lot. Well, but a national tournament, we spend a lot of our time, taking off from work and putting a lot of effort into these things. So just any kind of little advice you can get for preparing.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. For me, my hands just got so wet, and you got that swimming pool wrinkly hand that just doesn't have any grip on it anymore. And then you go grab the release, and my release, I had to grip it extra tight to get it to come back. So a couple of the guys said their hold was breaking down their sight picture because they were gripping the release so tight, trying not to let it slip. So
I think that's definitely a thing. Like, I think men and women experience this kind of situation a little bit different, because the men are like, "Oh, power up, son." Like, it's a possibility, because if you're a man and like maybe you shoot an 80-pound hunting bow when you come into a tournament shooting a 60-pound bow, like you have that buffer of you can definitely pull more. But a lot of women have to shoot their tournament bows at the top of their like
their
pulling.
max.
Like we have to compete at the max of our abilities. So some women can pull 60 pounds as like their max of their capabilities, and others are 55 or so. But when you start to get cold and you're wet and you're shivering, for anybody, like your strength kind of lacks a little bit. So I definitely saw ladies on the range today where it's like, okay, deep breath, let's get this. okay, pull that sucker back
Mhm.
because it just gets harder when it gets colder and you're wet and you're tired and shivering.
And I think in these conditions, probably one of the most important things that some people overlook is footwear.
Yes.
A good set of boots. Today, I was wearing just like ankle-sized boots that are waterproof, which were great until the very end when I had to walk out and it had been raining for 5 hours and it was right at the top of the boot, and so I got me a little nervous a few times. Tomorrow we will have the big boots on, but it makes a big difference. I've seen people. We had a couple of guys wearing tennis shoes. Was it mentioned? Hey, dudes were out there, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, I'm like, man, you got some stanky feet coming off the range, but I guess to each their own. But for me, when your feet get cold and wet, I'm usually down for the count. So
Yeah, a good pair of ankle fit boots.
Yeah.
With rubber boots when you need.
yeah, so it definitely helps.
The cheap ones are alright, but they do rub.
Yeah, you'll have blisters.
You have blisters, so they do
They
rub.
work.
So I definitely see why people
Put extra
pay
pairs
money.
of socks on.
Yeah, see, I had the big
Mhm.
ones on, so.
My feet were very comfortable all day. One thing I did notice is a lot of people were talking about water dripping down their pants and
Going in
into
the
their
boot.
boots.
Depends on the brand.
It does,
Yeah.
and the pair of boots that I have, they're not very expensive, but they do taper up after the
Mhm.
calf. They don't have that gap in the back. So my feet stayed really
Yeah.
dry and comfortable. That was like the only dry part of me.
Yeah, it usually only applies in a massive downpour where you're actually going to get water running down your pants. But,
Yeah, well, that was
pretty much most of
yeah,
the day.
That
Yeah.
was today.
So, but yeah, I had a few people that were taking their boots off and pouring
Oh.
water out of them.
Miserable.
I was like, you got big water boots and there's water in them.
Yeah.
So it happens. I'd say closing thoughts. One of the funniest thing I saw today. Good friend of mine, Colton Brazer, didn't have a scope cover, and he had to get inventive because it was pouring down rain. Couldn't keep his lens clear, so somehow he found a Hall's cough drop wrapper package and used that. It's the aluminum package. Used that the entire tournament to cover his scope. It was one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. Him walking around the range with that the entire time. But to his credit, it worked. It worked well. He actually shot very well today.
Yeah.
He's still in the hunt, so wish him the best. But that was funny. I laughed real hard when I saw that.
The ingenuity archer sometimes.
I mean, you do what you got to do, Yeah.
Sarah uses that coin purse.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so good. It's waterproof.
Yeah. Sarah's coin purse
It's not a coin purse,
covers
it's actually a makeup
a
bag.
makeup bag, whatever it is. It's all right. I use my elevation
I'll
cover.
take my makeup bag tomorrow.
You too?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use extra eyeliner.
Yeah.
Make sure it's waterproof.
I totally got waterproof eyeliner too.
This is taking a weird turn.
Yeah.
Well, time to end
Okay.
this.
Yeah, we're about time. So, does anybody have any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say? Any shameless plugs anybody wants to make?
No, stay dry.
Stay dry.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. We got a lot of work to do. I know I didn't shoot very good today. I made a few mistakes, but we're going to get after it tomorrow and see if we can climb back up. These two guys right here, they get to start from scratch.
Long day.
So I wish them the best of luck. Stay focused and stay as dry as you can, and we'll get after it.
Yeah.
So, all right, everyone. I guess that wraps us up. We want to thank y'all for joining us. This is special. Thank you for Antuan for joining us this time. Hopefully we'll see him again, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Thank you, guys. Bye.